Hey everybody, today I'm going to show you through a completed track. I'm going to do a general deconstruction of how it was made, and hopefully this will give you some interesting insight into what a finished tune looks like and what sort of level of production that I suppose I'm at, and what my thought process is for my own self-improvement and for the analysis of my own track, because I think that getting an insight into somebody else's self-criticism can be really helpful for you to understand maybe what sort of manners you should be thinking of your, like how you should be thinking of your tunes, because I don't self-loathe anymore when it comes to music, which is really great. What I do is I accept that what I've written is basically a recording of a place and time where I had this level of ability, this inspiration, and this was the output. So I actually cherish the tunes that I write now rather than sort of look at them as some sort of disgusting creation or any kind of negative thought process towards it. So this tune started off with a bit of a different sort of intro from what I had typically done in the past. Well, maybe it's not that different from what I've done in the past, but it kind of just sprung upon me. So what I had done is I went and found some really nice sort of space like atmospheric textures, and I pulled them into my project and I started layering quite a few effects upon them. And what you're going to see in this project is not like, it's quite tidy and well arranged, but when I actually start going into all of these effects chains, I imagine that a lot of this stuff is kind of just like thrown in there, played around with a little bit, and then maybe either like, yeah, maybe some of it doesn't feel a purpose. I was looking at like the synths that I've gotten here, and I was looking at the compressors and stuff that I had on them, and I feel like a certain amount of the work that I'd put into this tune was not as calculated as it needed to be, but that's part of the learning process. Like I just need to keep in mind that before I go laying compressors and effects down on things, I really need to have a firm idea of like why I'm even going to bother using that compressor. Why am I pulling it on? What is it going to achieve? Like there is no point in just aimlessly layering effects on things. It doesn't get you anywhere. It's great for experimenting and understanding what happens when you do that. So I'm not discouraging it altogether, but for me, like I know that I need to take a step back and approach it with more of a clear mind. So if I turn off, if I group all these tracks, I can just turn it all off, and you can hear what this sounds like just in isolation. So I'll skip, and then this guy. Cool. And then I've also got a very, very, very quiet Atmos here, which is a resample of this. I believe run through a very big long reverb, and then it's got a filter kind of sweeping it down and up. So it's just an ethereal layer sort of in the background. So that's what everything sounds like summed together. And then if I turn all the effects back on, so the phaser in this instance is Phase Mistress, and I've come in here and I've set the phasing effect to sync with the BPM of the track. So this is 140 BPMs over 16 bars. The dry wet mix is 100%, and I've selected the Super 4 style of sound, and that is modulating over top of everything. And then I've got Saturn, which is creating the interesting textures. So if I turn that off, turn it on, it's creating that kind of grating sound, and it moves up to a 20% mix, and then it moves back down, so it's pulsing in with its kind of sound effect. And I've got a little bit of bit reduction that comes in after the drop. I've got the LFO, which is moving the the FabFilter Saturn, and I've got the VUMT. I was just looking at the levels, and then I've got a filter that sweeps up before my kick and bass drop, so that there's no low end that conflicts with the kick and bass from the track. I've got a pad here that's just a really simple pad that I made in Serum, and the filter's opening. And then the filter is closing over time as the track is progressing in. And I've got some other modulation. I've got Shaper Box starting to pan the sounds, and that panning increases all the way to 100%, and the Bit Crusher is crushing the sounds. And let's listen to it all together. And then I sweep all of that up and filter it all out together as the synth hits. Right there. Cool. So I'm just gonna read you. Sorry, one moment. Cool. So here I've got some sweeps. So let's just quickly have a listen to what the sweeps sound like in isolation. So that's just a very long reverse cymbal. Probably the reverb. Yeah, I believe that's the reverb, or what it is it's this version. It's the reverb. I sampled I've got a dry cymbal with a bit of reverb on it, and then I've got a sampled version of that same crash with a lot of reverb, and then I've reversed it here. So I've got the dry version of it as well. And cool. And what I've done is I've made a habit of doing this. I always come in and I put fades so that when that it kind of starts to disappear right before the drop happens, and that results in. And I could have done more to accentuate the drop there, but like I said, I just accept that my thoughts towards this track is that it's finished in my eyes. I really don't want to get back into it and start changing things, because I really I believe in moving forward. So of course there's parts of it that could have been way better in so many different ways, but it is what it is. So I could have accentuated that drop better. I don't know whether it resolves as well as I'd like it to. But it works. So it plays through this big long section, and I have nothing else introduced during here, just the modulation on that. And I kind of just want to exaggerate the fact that it's this beginning section is a very long and slow and subtle progression. So here comes the lead with the delay. Okay, so that is the first lot of phrasing where I've got leads starting to talk to one another and tell stories. So I've got this Throaty Acid. Now I made this sound inside of Serum using the acid waveform inside of Ableton. Inside of Serum, and it's got a bit of stuff on it to make it sort of bend down when the other notes played, so it kind of pitch bends and stuff. And I just wanted it to be a very crisp sort of acid sound. I really like acid sounds, and I know that this is a very commonly used sound, but I'm hoping to really make a style for myself using that sound, but trying to do it in my way. And obviously I'm not there yet, but I'm pretty keen on using those sounds and understanding how I can make them mine. So this sound has a very, very long delay on it. And this entire project actually started from me experimenting with reverbs and delays. And then also reverbs and delays. So reverbs and delays as in separately, and then actually also combining reverbs onto the delay tails and seeing what I could do with trying to create a very big sort of depth of sound. So if I solo just the acid sound and I play it, let's listen to it floating away. And it's a very crisp sound. I really like the texture of it. As it kind of gets more delayed, it almost becomes more sort of crispy. So let's have a look at the delay. Now, I distorted this, but I've bounced it down so you can't see the distortion that I've put on it. I've also compressed it a bit and EQ'd it, but we'll look at the delay first and then I'll come back to that. So I use Echo Boy, and I'm a big fan of Echo Boy. It's definitely my favorite delay. It's the one that I use in every single song. So this is a quarter note delay, a ping pong delay, and it's dotted. It's fully wet because it's on ascend. And I've got the low cut and the high cut triggered so that every time, so as it delays, it's not delaying with a lot of the low end that was in the original sound or a lot of the high end that was in the original sound. And then I've got the style set to analog delay. So that kind of adds a bit of a character to the way that the sound repeats itself. And the styles inside of this are really cool. The transmitter and shortwave and the radio waves. All of it really sounds really cool. I just settled on analog delay for this particular sound. So as it comes out of the delay, I run it into an EQ. So let's play the sound. We can see that there. So all I'm doing is I'm just like kind of gently cutting and holding the sound, and I've got a bit of dips in these areas because I've got a lot of frequency information that cuts through there, and I'm cutting any ultra high because there doesn't need to be ultra high. And I just want the mentality of these effects on these sounds being very thoughtful in the sense that, yeah, I want to control what is being heard, and everybody should really be having that mentality. So I've got a reverb on here, and if I turn it off, we lose a bit of life in that sound. So I'll turn it back on, brightens it up a bit. So what we'll do is I'll just I'll re-trigger the delay, and we'll listen to it with the reverb off. My apologies, didn't turn the delay back on. Let's do that again. So I'll play it, reverb's turned off. Re-trigger the delay, turn the reverb on, play it again. Turn it off. Notice how some of the brightness disappears. So this is kind of adding a bit of brightness to the delay as it's going. It kind of gives it a little bit of life in it, and it brings it out a bit as well. Like you actually, it really pulls it into the mix a bit clearer. So I've got that running into an LFO tool. So the LFO tool is side chaining this sound. So when the kick's playing, it's going to push the delay out of the way if the delay overlaps with where the kick drum's hitting through. So that just kind of puts a bit of a washing movement, pumping movement on the delay as well. And then finally, I've got it hitting a compressor. And that, I think that's quite a bit of, I think I'm pushing this down quite a bit. So let's have a look at it. It's about 3 decibels of gain reduction, so it's just pushing it back a little bit. The attack's instantaneous, so it's instantly biting on the sound as soon as it triggers the compressor. The release is relatively slow, so it's kind of pushing it down and holding it at a volume. And it's 4 to 1 ratio, about negative 28 decibel. And it only is really doing something for the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7 delay repeats, and then it kind of really doesn't have much of an effect at all. And I haven't pushed the volume of it. So the volume that I've lost through the compression, I've actually just let it not have that sound, because I've figured that in the context of the mix, it sounds more controlled, and it's if I made up that volume loss, then I'd be too loud. So I've just kind of controlled the volume with the compressor. So now we've got a 1/8 delay, which some of these effects run into, like this percussion loop. So let's have a listen to that. So these effects were made. So if I turn off all of those, if you have a listen to it. So it's just some random percussion loop. I put Saturn on it to give it some dynamic weirdness. This is one of my favorite presets. It creates like a really strange glitching effect. I've phased it. So let's listen to the dynamic weirdness. Cool. With the phaser. With the EQ. Taking all the lows and chopping ultra highs. And then stereo tool. What am I doing with this? It's just on there. It's not doing anything. Cool. But it shows you the... There you go. I've got automated panning on it, sorry. So it's moving it around. So let's watch that automation, actually. Let's... Cool. So it moves from all the way left to all the way right, and then back to the center. And I've done a very similar thing on the vocal sounding synth. And they're both going, that's going into the really long delay, the 1/4 that I just showed you, and that one's going into the 1/8 delay. So let's listen to that. And that also has a reverb on it. So if I turn that reverb back on, it adds a really like subtle, nice bit of life to that sound. Compressing it a bit. Very similar effects chain to the 1/4. They're basically identical. It's just a matter of one being 1/4 timing and this one's 1/8 timing, but all of the other parameters are the same. And I was very happy with the character of the sound that I was getting from these delays. And it actually really did inspire the entire tune. So next we've got, so as it moves out of that phase, let's play the tune a bit more. If you want me to talk about the kick and bass, actually, I can do that too. So what we've got here is I synthesized both the kick and bass. So I've frozen them and flattened them, and this has come from kick 2. Cool. So it's got a bit of white noise at the front of it to create some interesting sound on the click. I've got... an EQ that's doing nothing, so maybe we could just delete that. I've got a Trans-X multi, and it's really, this is a transient shaper sort of upward compressor, so what it's doing is it's grabbing the beginning of that kick and it's kind of pulling it up. So let's turn it off, and then turn it on. And to be honest with you, in my headphones, I really can't hear it doing anything. Yeah, it's a little bit duller with it turned off. So it's just adding a bit of click. And then we've got some surgical EQ. Let's turn it off. Sort of focusing the sound a bit, and I've found a resonant frequency there that I didn't like, so I cut it out. Cool, and then the bass, unfortunately this is completely frozen, but if you want to hear it in isolation. Cool, and then if we want to look at the entire group, I've got a Pultec EQ, so I'll turn that off. So it adds body to both the bass and the kick, and the settings are here for you to have a look at. I'm really targeting the click as well as the low end. We've got an EQ over everything. Just cutting out frequencies that I don't like. I've got a span just to analyze things. And then I've got some filters on here to do some stuff. So I've got, by the looks of it, 2 filters. Not entirely sure why I've got 2 filters. Cool, so that's just sweeping it out. And what I've started doing with my new tracks actually is something like this. I think it sounds a bit cooler. So I've got it sweeping up, and then sort of on the last part, I let it womp back down. So if I do that on both of them, I kind of let it roll back down like that. And I think that sounds much cooler because I think it injects power back into the track better than it just sort of... And then in context. Cool. Sweet. So I have a very big, long progression through here. Get to this point and you start to notice that energy is starting to rise in the tune. You can really hear that. Cool, and then we start going into a white noise sweep. It's very simple, sidechained. We got another set of white up, and I've got a big long pitch riser that is cool. So we got this energy riser. This is made in Serum, saw wave, lots of voices on the filter, and then spread to be pretty wide. And it just goes from, it goes up 24 semitones, I think it is. So, yeah, just a pretty simple sound, but has an interesting texture to it. So it kind of really starts drawing your attention when you can hear it. So it's just all... Just a very basic white noise sweep, just opening over time. We've got, and we've got the synth that comes in. So we've got filter automation. Stereo width, so I've controlled the width of the sound. And then I made the sound inside of Serum, so it's a lot of voices detuned, another layer on top. Envelope 1, envelope 2. So I've got the Skype. It's like a very metallic sounding, ripping, stabbing sort of lead. I really like these kind of leads. I just feel like I need to learn their place a little bit better. Got a bunch of effects coming through here, very similar way I've done them. I've got the Skype. I got the... I got these guys that I made in Psytrance, so it's just like a kind of like a pitch bent sort of acidy sound, and so it plays single and then it plays da-da, and then it plays single and da-da, and it's such an interesting texture on that sound. They just feel like with that delay, they just feel like they float off into the distance, like so nicely. I really like generating that effect. What else we got? We got some percussion coming in. I'm not too pleased with the percussion in this track. Think it's a little bit underwhelming. So I've got just the offbeat, and then I've got the skittery layer automating up in volume, so you can see that that's coming up. And then you can start hearing it. Oh, if I didn't have it not solid, you can hear it kind of raising in volume. Snare as well. Snare's really dry. And then we've got all of it together here. EQ'd and then put it in a space just for the texture behind everything else. Nice. And then towards the end of the bar, I add some flair on it. More effects, all going through those delays. So once you make those delays once, they're done. Moving up again and then dropping into the vocal. So, we've got a low version with dynamic weirdness on it. And it's EQ'd so there's no low end. Then we've got a vocal right. Just panned right. And it's got the delay of... Where is that delay coming from? It's on the group here. Psytrance delay. And then the left, the center.
You must fight for what is yours.
So the outer ones are phased, but the center channel is kept clean. So it's just got the delay of the group here. So it's got this Psytrance delay, which is a preset inside of Timeless. Have a listen to it, it's pretty interesting. That's EQ'd. And then it's going into a reverb as well. So that reverb is the synth verb, and that is an ultra verb tune preset. So it's going into concert hall, and that's adding a nice lushness on the vocals. So let's have a listen. And then I've got the reversed vocal as well. So if we listen to it all together,
What is yours?
I'll take that out. It kind of like adds like this kind of sucking feeling into each word that he says.
And for what you believe in. Remember, my son, it is not one's outward brawn, but rather one's inner strength that makes them mighty.
Cool. All right, so to flick it into this transition here, I use a zapping down sort of effect. So this guy. And that's quite simple. So it's serum, a filter opening, so a high pass filter that's fully closed, so nothing's coming through, and then just slowly move down, so you start hearing the high end as it comes in, distorted with some distortion inside a serum, and then I've panned it. It's a very basic sound, but they sound really cool, and then it's obviously run through a big long delay. And then to sort of make it sort of womp into that next section, let's have a listen to the kick and bass. So let's go from here. So filter's moving up and then starts opening. And then we've got a reverse kick. Cool. And then we have the second main lead component. Those delays are out of control. It would be very wise to have a like a delay kill switch and reverb kill switch in your tracks. I think I'll work on getting something like that in the future. But what we've got is we've got the original sound here. So everything's turned off. So it's just a typical acid sound. And then it's run into a really heavy filter with a lot of resonance to create that sort of sound of excitement, I suppose. But you can see the pattern here. So the tune's in A sharp, and then it's stepping up G and then A sharp. So the filter comes down and then it starts sweeping up again. Cool, and then it sweeps up, and as it's doing that, it's got the snare riser, which is quite subtle, and then the kicks And I do some rhythmic stuff with this kick here. The reverse kicks inject energy into things really nicely. And I've got that bellowing sort of acidic sound here, an acid roar is what I've called it. So it's very similar to this acid sound, but it's a sustained note, and yeah, just run through the delays. So that, yeah, it drops into that, and it's just kind of like a clean drop into kick and bass, but with a feeling of like sort of it whacks into it. So this part is like a sort of period of time where it's resolving from the drop just happened, and then this part is like, okay, well, we just resolved from the drop, but guess what? We're going back into another build because everybody loves builds constantly, right? So then, and here we go. We'll start sweeping back up again. Just a couple of one shots of the effects. And then this is the climactic release of the tune. Lots of different sweeps and stuff. A lot of it's just sort of same stuff reused. Like, it creates cohesion. If I made a million different rises, it might not sound that together, but variation is good, and I will get more complex, but for now. So what I do there is I take out the acid sound and I replace it with the synth lead that I play melodically at the beginning of the track, so it just transitions. So if we look at that, the heavy acid lead stops, and then the plucker lead comes back in. And all the time I've got this kind of rhythmic shouting sort of lead playing. This lead is maybe apart from the percussion, one of the other things that I feel like could have been utilized differently, but I'm not entirely sure how I would have wanted to utilize it differently. But so these guys are talking to one another, and I think they speak to one another really nicely, but maybe I think it's too repetitive. Maybe I think it just needs to be different, but I mean, it works. I feel like it works, but I think in the future I'm going to try expanding the ways that I've got these sort of ripping elements speaking to one another. I really do want to be able to write a couple of tracks in the future where I feel like I have very like metallic, gnarling sort of leads, almost having arguments with one another in a musical, rhythmic sort of manner. But I really want this idea of like very aggressive, gnashing leads. I found this really cool preset inside of Trash, which is a distortion plugin that makes when you trigger it, the sound, it distorts the shit out of the sound. But then as the sound finishes playing, there's like artifacts that kind of crackle, which creates this really like maniacal sort of like crackling vibe. And I really want to try and use that on these sounds and create these really imposing textures. I really like music that feels very powerful. And that's what I try and create whenever I sit down and write music. I try and create something that feels powerful. And I feel like this track, to me, especially in the breakdown, becomes like quite a powerful tune. And I hope that translates well to other people. So the tune starts to, come down. I repeat the vocals again. and then it just sweeps out. So it's not necessarily the most complex tune in the world. I mean, I reuse all of the same effects throughout the entire track. I hope in a manner that doesn't come across as being too repetitive. For me, it doesn't necessarily sound repetitive, but I feel like it could evolve more, of course. And I've done a few things where I've made sort of acoustic effects, which are quite interesting. So reverb, where you're using the early reflections to create like a backing to the... It kind of brightens up the sounds a little bit, makes them seem like they're in an acoustic space. Cool. So I think that's a pretty good breakdown of most of the key components of the track. The kick and bass, I haven't been able to show you how they were made, but I've got heaps of videos on how to make kicks and basses, so just follow that and sort of you'll get an idea of my process. But hopefully that was an interesting bit of insight into the music. If I show you the master doesn't have anything on it that's affecting it. It's got random shit, but that's just looking at the stereo field. That's just looking at the overall frequency context, and this is just boosted a little bit in volume so that you can hear it in a decent balance against my voice in the video, but I made it with that limiter off. There's heaps of headroom, so if I play it in the most intense part of the tune, I've got a good, about let's say 12 decibels of headroom. I could have squished this tune a bit more than what it was. I haven't got it controlled that well in terms of all of the groups, so the mix could have been improved a bit. The space for all of these sounds is created through simply the use of EQ, and then once I've got the sound EQ'd nicely, if I want to pull it out into what I can hear a bit better, I'll use a compressor to bring out the plucks if it's a plucking instrument or if it's a biting sharp instrument. On the drums, I use compressors to control the transients so that they're not quite so sharp and everything's kind of balanced in terms of the volume control of the entire group. I use LFO tool on my percussion to kind of push it around, pulse it around the kick drum. I think everything, or a lot of things in Psytrance, should be moving around the kick drum, so things should pulse. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Hi everyone, thank you for watching my videos. If you would like some one-on-one help, I offer one-on-one tutorials over Skype. So if you think that you need a little bit of extra help, please get in touch with me. You can email me. My email will be in the link of the video description. If you would like to support the channel in other ways, jump over onto Patreon and consider becoming a patron. Subscribe to me on YouTube and like my page on Facebook. And thanks again for watching my video. See you in the next one.